Okay, so you've been doing everything the same for weeks now. Same dose, same meals, same routine. And the scale hasn't moved in longer than you want to admit out loud. You know weight loss doesn't move in a straight line. You've probably said that exact sentence to a friend at some point. And still, underneath everything you know, something older starts talking. Here we go. This is where it comes back. I'm Dr. Jen Bradley, and if you've been on a GLP-1 for a while, somewhere in the middle of it, not the very beginning, not the finish line, I want to talk about a moment that catches a lot of women off guard: the plateau. So here's what's actually going on in your body. And honestly, this part's pretty simple. Plateaus are one of the most predictable things that happen in this whole process. As your body loses weight, your energy expenditure adjusts. Hormones recalibrate. Water retention shifts around. A body that's lost a meaningful amount of weight in a short window is at some point just going to pause and catch up with itself. That's not the medication failing. It's not you doing something wrong. It's what internal adaptation looks like from the outside. But here's what I actually want to talk about today, because knowing that fact doesn't always change how the plateau feels. And that gap between what you know and what you feel, that's exactly where fear of regain lives. Fear of weight regain is one of the 12 challenge areas in the After the Noise method. Most people assume it's a later stage thing, something that shows up once you're maintaining and worried about keeping weight off long term. And that's true, but if you're in the messy middle right now, still losing, still adjusting, it tends to show up a lot earlier than that, right here at the plateau. And it doesn't just show up as some mild concern about the future. It shows up dressed as a memory. If this were your first time losing weight, a stall might just be annoying and nothing more. But it's probably not your first time. Most women at this point in a GLP-1 journey have lost weight before. And at least once, the losing stopped and the weight came back. There's actually a name for that earlier experience. Researchers who study weight cycling call it the punishing loop. That stretch after the initial rush of loss, where holding on to what you'd gained started demanding more than the losing ever had, until this dread crept in. The sense that you weren't going to be able to keep it up. That loop belongs to your past. But somewhere along the way, your mind built an association. A stall meant something bad was coming. And now, a stall in the present activates those same feelings. And look, this isn't a flaw in you. The brain is basically an anticipating machine. It uses past experience to guess what's about to happen next. So, when the present looks enough like the past, your nervous system just responds like the past is happening again. Which means when the scale stalls now, you're not only reacting to this plateau, you're reacting to the one before it too, the one that turned into a punishing loop and won. That's why the fear can feel so out of proportion to what's actually happening. You're doing everything right, and that alarm going off inside you isn't really about today. It's your nervous system matching a pattern, comparing now to then, and landing on a conclusion this moment hasn't actually earned. So what do you do with that? Start by pulling the plateau apart from the prediction. The plateau is a fact. What you're afraid it means, that's a story. They show up together. They feel like the exact same weight sitting in your chest, but they're not the same thing. Here's a simple way to practice it. When the fear shows up, ask yourself, What do I actually know right now versus what am I predicting? How long you've generally been at this weight, and for what it's worth, plateaus under 8 to 12 weeks are considered totally normal. What your adherence has actually looked like, and what happened the last time you hit a stall on this specific journey, not some diet from 10 years ago. This time, did it turn into a regain, or did it just end when the losing picked back up? You'll probably notice the facts are short, kind of boringly short, actually. The story runs a lot longer, and most of it belongs to a different chapter in your life than the one you're in now. I say this to my clients all the time. Trust facts over feelings. Not because the feelings are wrong, they make total sense given what you've lived through. But right now, in this moment, they're reporting on the wrong timeline. They're telling you about back then. What you need is information now. If you're at a plateau right now, I want you to hear this. You're not imagining the fear. You're not being dramatic. You're having a completely coherent response to a body and a history that taught you more than once that a stall was the beginning of the end. But the version of you standing here today has something the earlier version didn't. She didn't have a name for what was happening in her body. She didn't have a way to tell fact from fear when the scale stopped moving. You do now. That's not a small difference. It might make the whole difference. I go deeper into this over on Substack this week, including the full practice for telling fact from old fear. I'll drop the link below. And if you're in your own plateau right now, I genuinely love to know, has an old fear about regain ever shown up for you like this? Tell me in the comments. I read all of them. See you next week.